Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm recapping episode 8 of And Just Like That. Even though I want to call it Sex and the City, I don't know how we're going to get through this episode. I'm a wreck. I am sick on Steve's behalf, but we'll get there. First of all, I did not know that so many people don't see it for Shay. I was on Twitter and there were so many people who are just so over the Miranda and Shay storyline. Now, what I will say is that Shay's comedy, a bit preachy. It's never really giving comedy for me. It's giving, we're using this as a storytelling device to make up for the way we treated this community in the past. That's what it's giving for me, just to be quite clear. So the episode opens up with Shay doing yet another sermon / TED Talk / speech at an LGBTQ rally. And she gets to a point where she's talking about being free, being open, being honest, and all while she's doing this whole speech about the prison of not being yourself. Miranda's in the crowd, and they know that Miranda's in the crowd. Miranda also sees Brady and his draining ass girlfriend. I'm so sick of that little girl. I don't want to see her no more. She can go. But Miranda starts hiding, all while Shay is, coincidentally, ironically, talking about why people of that community shouldn't hide. And it made me think about something. The whole time we're thinking about Miranda's affair with Shay, there's also a part of Miranda that seems to not want to acknowledge that she herself is a queer woman. I think in the previous episode where Charlotte was like, so are you gay? And I don't think Miranda quite knew how to answer that. So I think that what's happening is that Miranda's actually not sure how she identifies, because Shay is a non-binary person. So what does that mean? I think that that's what it means to be queer. You're somewhere on the spectrum between heterosexuality and homosexuality. You are somewhere on that spectrum, but you're closer to homosexual than heterosexual. I'm not a scholar. Let me stop before I say something wrong. But I think not only is Miranda grappling with no longer wanting to be married to Steve, I think she's also grappling with her identity. And there are several people on this show grappling with their identity. Carrie is a widower. Miranda is queer / questioning. Charlotte's kid, Rock, is trans or non-binary, figuring it out. And I think that in a lot of ways, a lot of people are always questioning their identity, even if it's not gender-based or sexuality-based. We're always kind of evolving into different people if we're lucky and we're aware. Miranda kind of tries to just play this off, but Shay, who was having a cigarette with some people after her sermon / TED Talk / show. And I just want to say as an aside, have y'all noticed that, so New York Times did a story about this. I only saw the headline. I did not read it, so I'm not going to discuss the story. But the story was saying that cigarettes are making a comeback. And I do feel like I'm seeing more people smoking these days. Apparently it's the younger kids, but it's just like, ew, gross. It's the smell alone that just, makes cigarettes not a thing. Denormalize cigarettes. I appreciate that Shay is very straightforward. Shay is like, okay, where did you scurry off to? And Miranda's like, I got us iced coffees. And it's like, no, we about to talk about this. I love this. Don't let things fester. And we come to know that Shay assumed that Brady knew about their relationship. And Shay's like, oh, so Brady doesn't know about me. And it's like, well, Brady doesn't know about us. Brady doesn't know anything. And Shay is like, it's one thing to be newly queer, and figuring that out. It's another thing to be married and lying, and I'm not a homewrecker. This is why conversations about boundaries and what exactly you're doing in your relationship, that needs to be more sexy. People seem to not think that it's sexy to call a thing or to say, this is what we're doing. You can go with the flow all you want, but at a certain point, there needs to be an understanding of what exactly your relationship is, what those boundaries are, what your intentions are, what your intentions are. And they apparently have been having this affair for 3 weeks now. Shay's thinking that Miranda's in an open marriage, and Miranda is not. And Miranda is really kind of like aloof about this and kind of trying to laugh it off like, hey, this is new for me. And it's like, but bitch, you've been married though. And I also thought that it was really interesting that Shay even made the assumption that the marriage was open. They both made assumptions on both parts, but I appreciate Shay being very forthcoming and being like, that don't work for me, figure your shit out. So good for Shay for establishing a boundary. So meanwhile, Carrie is going through her fashion archives, and Lily is helping Carrie with this. And Carrie has a downstairs neighbor that Carrie has the same questions about her that we had about Carrie 20, 30 years ago. Carrie wants to know how this young girl can afford to live under her. So Seema is like, girl, maybe she's like a Russian prostitute. And it's like, girl, wait. This is the thing that I grapple with in New York too, because I understand that a part of the culture of New York is that it's loud, and people will be in the courtyard or be on the street and they will play music all hours of the night, and like there are lively conversations and it's loud. I struggle with that sometimes because I'm like, regardless of what the culture of a place is, does everyone not need to sleep? People have babies. Why do you have music blasting at like 2 a.m. when there are so many people who live in this building? Like, that's a part of New York culture that I do not understand. And you never want to be that person. Like, I'm never going to call the police on nobody, but you don't want to be that person. And, you know, you don't want to be a gentrifier, but it's like, I guess my question is, how is everybody living like this? Because this just doesn't seem sustainable. Like, I can't be the only person who's unhappy that they can't get to sleep. So Carrie is grappling with not wanting to be the old lady who wants the kids to quiet down on the stoop. And I'm sorry, but like, girl, people need their rest. Take your ass in your house. You pay a lot of money for your rent. Take your ass in your house and enjoy your house and be noisy in your house, but not right up under my window. That's just rude, okay? So Carrie does, lift up the window and say, come on, guys, which made me think about Samantha in the OG show in the meatpacking district, where she was quite disrespectful to some trans sex workers. So we won't get into that, but it was a little bit reminiscent of that scene. So Carrie yells down. She feels guilty for it. So the B plot of this episode is Carrie feeling really bad for just not being cool. I don't think it makes you uncool to need people to shut the hell up outside your house and get your rest, though. So another theme that I noticed and that I loved in this episode is something that Tracee Ellis Ross said a long time ago, which is that just because, not a long time ago, maybe some months back, what is time anymore? But she said that just because she doesn't have kids doesn't mean that she can't still be a mother to so many other people. And Carrie and Big never had kids. And I feel like what we saw this episode was Carrie being a nurturer to several people. And I felt like there was like a maternal kind of thing when she went down to the girl's apartment because there was very loud music playing. And she goes down to her apartment and the door is open and there's like bottles and everything everywhere. And that girl was passed out in a lovely dress. Talk about it. Okay. Just as an aside, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous gown. And, Carrie turns down the music and blows out the candle and just, closes the door. And I think that it was also a bit of maybe Carrie seeing herself a little bit like in this young girl. And that was another theme of like being reflective on who they once were, especially when we get to Lily's plotline. So Charlotte, in a lovely, moment of product placement, is encouraging Harry to wear this like ring that monitors, his health and all the things like that. And it was a very cute scene. And, she proposes. She's on one knee. She decides that she is going to, you know, perform some fellatio for her husband. And the whole time I was thinking, like, but the door is wide open and y'all live with y'all kids anyway. And so just then Lily pops up, and so she slams the door on Lily's face. Now, let me just say this. I'm super excited that Lily is getting some screen time, that Lily is getting a storyline, because the whole time we've been seeing all this drama with Rock/Rose coming to terms with their identity. And Lily has just like been in the background, like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, well, why is Lily here? So I was actually happy that we're getting a little bit of Lily's screen time. And so while Miranda and Steve are way too open with sex, Charlotte fears that she and Harry aren't open enough. Like, Charlotte, as we can tell, grew up with a lot of shame around sex and didn't want to replicate that in her kids' lives. But now that it's time to actually do it, she kind of doesn't really know how. And I'm sure that she didn't plan to do it by just like openly having sex where her kids could see. Like, that's just not appropriate. I don't care how progressive you think you are. So I know that that's not what she was intending, but I think her reaction surprised her. And this actually inspires Charlotte to have a moment of humanity and reality, that she does not actually have everything figured out. And I was like, oh, finally. So when the ladies are having, I guess that was dinner at, I think that was Luke's Lobster, which I've eaten at before, if that was the one in Soho. I didn't know that white people eat crab legs. Hear me out. So there is a Cajun seafood boil restaurant here that I absolutely love. And we have those in Atlanta. They're, you know, but I have never actually seen white people eat crab legs like how we eat crab legs, like break them open, like suck them out, all that. I've never seen white people do that. I've only seen black people do that and Asians do that. I didn't know white people ate crab legs like that. Matter of fact, did I see them actually eat the crab legs on the show like that? Anyway, and Miranda tells the ladies that she's going to divorce Steve, and she's expecting for Charlotte to judge her. And Charlotte's like, bitch, I don't even know what's going on in my own life, so you'll do whatever is best for you. And I was like, finally, like, where was this energy forever ago? Like, I'm glad you finally got here, but like, damn. So that was a moment of relief. Y'all know I have my notes. So Miranda says that she wants to be alone. And Carrie says, are you sure? Because there's being alone and then there's being alone. Like, Carrie right now is alone. What I don't understand, though, is that Miranda says she wants to be alone, but she also says that she wants to be with Shay. Well, that's not being alone. One thing that's always been confusing to me, when people want to get a divorce that's inspired by another person, don't you want some time to just be to yourself? Like, why do you want to jump from one person to the next? And Carrie asks a very important question, which is, how much does Shay want you? Like, you're going to upend your entire life, which I do think that divorce should be more normalized, but the legal part of it can be messy. It's a lot to do to untangle your life from someone who you've been with for that long. It's quite a process, you know. Are you sure that you want to do this in the name of this person? And Miranda feels like she would have arrived at this place with or without Shay. We'll never know. But I'm happy that Carrie asked that question, which prompts Miranda to go and ask, like, listen, to go and ask Shay, like, am I making this up? Am I crazy? I'm in love with you. Like, what's happening here? And Shay says that they are also in love with Miranda, but that they can't give Miranda a traditional setup. And Miranda, you know, it's like, that's not even what I want. I've had traditional for the longest time. I don't want that. And they, you know, part ways. Shay goes to do their show, and I can't help but feel that this is actually going to end badly for Miranda. In my spirit, I just feel that it's going to end badly for Miranda. And initially, Miranda, when she decides she's going to have this talk with Steve about the divorce, she says that she's not going to mention Shay, which I'm glad that she didn't push through with that, but we'll get there. So Charlotte wants to have lunch with Lily to sit down and actually like talk about things. And she inadvertently sees that Lily has a fake Instagram account where she posted a picture in some athletic wear. It's a little bit risque, but it's not that deep, but I'm also not a mom. And she freaks out and she's like, what is this? Like, like, I can't believe like you have a fake Instagram account. Like, what's going on? There's a male commenting, whatever. And Lily walks out. I'm always annoyed at the way kids behave on these shows because like I would have never been able to just walk away from my mom. And maybe I grew up, maybe that's toxic. Maybe you're supposed to be able to walk away from your parents during a confrontation, but I don't know nothing about that shit. And so they have this argument, where Charlotte was actually intending to talk to Lily and like actually like open up the floor for Lily to express whatever, questions or whatever she might be having about sex. Well, because Charlotte is convinced that Lily saw her in the act with Harry, and she actually didn't. Charlotte felt like a lie was better than the truth and, told Lily that she was checking Harry for cancer. Anyway, so Lily retreats to Carrie's where she's continuing to help Carrie archive her fashions and things like that. And Charlotte calls, and so Carrie takes the call in the other room and explains to Charlotte in what I think was the best way, the most objective way, that Lily is a teenager who is figuring out who she is. Again, identity is coming into play here. And Carrie is, again, acting as a mother. And not in that traditional overbearing, whatever kind of way, but just as an objective woman who understands where this girl is. Lily's not her baby, so she can see this a little bit more objectively, that she's just trying to figure out who she is, and she's here with all these clothes, and I can see the wheels turning of she's at the age where she's figuring out what kind of woman she wants to be, like how she wants to dress. And I think that, that's a part of growth for anyone of any identity. How do I want to present to the world? And thank God, Chad, that we have all gone through our different, evolutions and phases. The stuff I used to wear, Chad, oh my God. The low-rise Von Dutch jeans, and I'm talking about the Von Dutch was in big yellow letters across my butt. And my mama thought they was so cute. But I will say, I was very body shy when I was younger because I had really huge boobs. I've since had a breast reduction and lost weight. That's another conversation for another day. But when I was younger, I was very tiny, but I had a shape and I had huge boobs. And I was actually kind of embarrassed about my body because I didn't want people looking at it, I guess. So my mom didn't have a lot of trouble with me dressing risque. I wasn't conservative, but I was not like naked. And so there's this thing in Atlanta called Birthday Bash. And I wanted to wear, I was super into BB when I was younger. And there was a BB logo outfit that it was like these little terry cloth BB logo shorts and like a tank top. And I just know it's going to be so cute. I was going to wear some all white Air Force Ones with it. Like, bitches was going to be sick. Like, I was really ready to shut it down. And I showed my mom the outfit and she was like, you are absolutely not wearing that anywhere out of this house. Like, absolutely not. And that was the only time that my mom ever shamed me about my clothes. And now that I think about it, because my boobs were so huge, I think my mom actually made me feel more comfortable with them. So like I did wear like some low cut stuff to school that I got in trouble for in retrospect, but we're going to have to talk about dress codes another day. But anyway, that's just a part of learning who you are, is learning how you want to present to the world. And I was happy that Carrie could give Charlotte a more objective perspective on that. And it was also great to know that like Lily was like, girl, that Instagram account is private and it's followed by 9 of my close friends. That was my friend's brother. So I was also happy to know that Lily wasn't just like out here at risk of being exposed to predators, So we get to the big part. Miranda confront Steve. And Steve does not see this coming. That's, I think, what also really made this hard to watch. Steve did not see this coming. And when he says, like, you're not trying to divorce me, are you? And Miranda's like, well, actually, yeah. I felt sick. And the way that Steve viewed things, where it's like, we went through so many ups and downs of me never feeling like I was enough for you. And where we are now, this is just marriage. This is what a life is. And Steve is actually really happy because things finally had calmed down. He finally felt safe and that Miranda really wanted to be with him. Of course, despite the infidelity. And it feels like the rug got pulled from under him because once again, it's like, I'm just not enough for you, am I? You know, and I started flashing back to the OG show, and I'm like, Miranda really probably should have just left Steve alone when he was dating that one woman who I think her name was actually Jessica. After they had Brady and they, you know, broke up and he was dating the one girl and then she was with Blair Underwood. Why did Miranda decide that she wanted Steve then? Now, I do remember early in their relationship, Steve had some insecurities, you know, because when he couldn't afford to pay for the suit or whatever. And, you know, he didn't feel enough then. And, you know, this back and forth of just not feeling like enough for her. And they got to this place in life where it felt like they were on the same page and they just weren't. And even the way that he said, I just want you to be happy. Oh my God. I was gutted. I just wanted so much more for and from Steve. I just wanted him to have a better storyline. I guess I really wanted him and Miranda to work out. But I was really happy that Miranda actually did confess that there is someone else. And like, we didn't get to see the conversation of her say, like, you know, I'm in a relationship with a non-binary person. We'll see what happens. The highlight of the episode for me was Carrie sitting in that fabulous Versace dress from her time in Paris in her apartment. I have absolutely, especially like when I'm shooting fashion content, I absolutely just casually hang out in my house in between shooting stuff in very fabulous outfits, just trying stuff out. It's a blast. Sometimes you just dress up for yourself, and especially if you're a person who feels more comfortable dressed up, it's amazing. Try it. Just do it one time, report back, let me know what y'all think. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Me and some of the people I've been discussing this with are divided. Where it's like, yes, people need to live in their truth and, you know, good for Miranda for living in her truth. I also feel like shit, maybe they can be in an open marriage. Maybe that's actually better. What do you guys think? I think that actually might be better if she could convince or discuss with Steve that like, hey, maybe we should have an open marriage, and that way her and Shay can be non-traditional, and, you know, maybe they have like a triad or something. I don't know. Just something to think about. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments. Justice for Steve is still, you know, what I'm on. Be sure to like and subscribe and share. Join my Patreon. You know, if you slap me some coins, you can suggest a topic that I will discuss on my YouTube channel. So thank you guys for joining me. And thank you for the comments. I'm having some really great conversations with you guys. And we'll talk again soon. Bye.